I wasted years trying to explain myself to people who were never meant to understand me. And if you're watching this, you might well be doing the same thing right now. So let me tell you how I learnt this lesson the hard way and give you a little bit of context. So in my 20s and even my early 30s, I was the most surface level guy you could imagine. I had a big circle, I was very well known, I bought the jokes, the vibes, the energy. Generally there was an understanding that if you wanted a good laugh, you'd call Ali. But the truth is, there was no depth, there was no reflection, no real connection. I was just conforming to whatever society expected of me. I didn't have a calling or a mission or some grand vision. I was just kind of floating. And then, as is often, the case before a major shift, there's usually that moment where calamity hits. And that happened for me. I lost everything. People betrayed me. I had no money, no work, no direction. All the people I thought would stand by me just disappeared overnight. It was the darkest period of my life. And I remember vividly thinking, why me? What did I do to deserve this? But often when the darkness becomes overwhelming, when the silence becomes almost deafening, I realized something really powerful. The only way out was to stop looking outward and start looking inward. And for me, that journey inward ultimately led upward to the one who created me. I think about this, if your car breaks down, who do you trust more than the manufacturer? They built the machine, they know it better than anyone else. And we oftentimes pay a premium for their expertise without a question. So when I broke down, why would I run to people who hadn't lived my life? People whose intentions I couldn't always trust. Makes no sense, right? So I went back to the one who created me from nothing. This was simply his plan unfolding. And my only job was to be patient, in the good and the bad, right? And trust that he knows better for me than I know for myself. And I'll be honest with you, patience through divine will is one of the hardest you'll ever face because you're constantly questioning everything. And at that time, you've got to be patient. And the way to do that, I read, I studied, I prayed, I questioned every belief that I'd absorbed from society. And slowly I emerged as a completely different person, a complete 180 from who I was. I went from being loud, superficial, to being quiet, reflective, deeper, and much more spiritual. Silence became my teacher. Solitude became almost my medicine. There's a famous saying, right? All of humanity's problems stem from the inability to sit quietly in a room alone. And once I understood that, something in me shifted forever. But here's where the problem then occurs. I had changed, clearly, but people's image of me hadn't. They still talked to me like I was the old Ali, the guy who brings laugh, the loud one, the party guy. And they asked me are you depressed? Why are you always so quiet? Why don't you come out anymore? These are all valid questions, right? And because I cared, I kept explaining myself again and again and again until I became sick of hearing my own voice. So I reverted back to silence, this time to try and understand why this kept happening. And, during this time, it was almost like these 4 revelations revealed themselves to me, and I'll share them with you. And the first one is that people hear through their own filters. People project their own biases, fears, expectations, and desires onto you. Even if you explain your whole life story perfectly, they're still hearing it through their lens, not yours. And unless someone has walked a mile in your shoes, how can they realistically expect to understand? Most relationships today, even family ones, that sadly they're all transactional. People hear what aligns with their needs, not your reality. And that's not cruelty, it's just human nature. The second thing was explaining yourself is draining. We explain ourselves to the people we love, parents, siblings, partners, old friends. And when they still don't understand you, it kind of chips away at your confidence. And you start questioning yourself, like, am I explaining this wrong? Is there something inherently wrong with me? Are they right? Am I actually wrong all this time? And that's not easy, but the truth is, it's unreasonable to expect people to understand what they've never experienced. It's not about right or wrong, it's about protecting your time, your energy, your mental state. And the third thing is what I call self-validation over external validation. We live in a world obsessed with approval, likes, comments, opinions, acceptance. And I used to depend on that. Maybe I still do sometimes. But as you grow and develop, as you understand your purpose, the need for external validation starts to fade because your real battle is with yourself. Your real purpose comes from within. It's not from anyone else. It's not from the likes or the comments. It's from yourself. The fourth sort of thing that I came across was like focus on the people who do understand. I'm not talking about living alone and disconnecting from society. We need people. We're social beings. But not everyone needs to get you, right? Some friends are for deep conversations. Some are for, football. Some are for jokes. Some are for one thing. Both are fine. You just meet people where they are. It's a sign of emotional intelligence. If you expect a 6-year-old to understand quantum physics, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. But if you understand who people are, you set the right expectations and then you avoid unnecessary pain. So I think one of the main things to take away here is really audit your circle. Write down the people you spend the most time with and think, like, do they drain you or do they fuel you? What do they do? Do they understand you or are they projecting onto you? Don't cut people off. Just meet them where they are. Stop explaining, start living. Next time someone questions you, why are you quiet? Why don't you come out? Just smile. Let your actions explain the rest. Your silence is actually stronger than 1,000 explanations. And shift from external to internal validation, right? Catch yourself when you're seeking approval. Ask yourself, am I doing this for them or for me? And just move one step closer to the answer that feels true. Find your understanding few, right? You don't need many, just a few people who get you. And protect that circle. Value that circle. Build solitude into your routine, even if it's just 10 minutes a day. No phone, no noise, just you. Because clarity grows in silence. So to conclude, it's almost the shift that I made is I audited my circle. I stopped explaining myself. My only validation that I was seeking was my own. And I started protecting the few who understood me. And the biggest thing for me was building solitude into my life. Because the goal isn't to be understood by everyone. The goal is to live in such a way you no longer need to be.